It's Humble and Fred.
It's a man masturbating on the Go bus. Police, rather, are now looking for other victims as they don't think that this is the first time that he went to go to come.
I love that. Go to come. Very nice.
It's amazing how your perspective changes. It's like at 25, that's funny, hilarious, ha, ha, ha. And now here I am at 68, and I'm thinking, my granddaughter just thinks she could be on the Go bus with her mom or dad and then look over and see that. And your daughters are of an age at some point where you probably would have been disturbed if they saw that.
I would have been disturbed if they saw me doing it, baby, but... Daddy? Look away! Look away, girls! Daddy has needs!
The Humble and Fred Podcast. Available where fine quality podcasts are also available.
This episode of Humble and Fred is being broadcast to the world from our state-of-the-art Humble and Fred studio in Puerto Aventuras, Mexico, and from our well-equipped Dominican Republic facility with Muskoka chairs on a sandy ocean beachfront. And is brought to you by the Retirement Sherpa, the Chambers Clan, Boron One, Bodog, and Lender's Choice Mortgages. And now, here are two men who really don't like the daylight saving time change because it affects their bowel movement schedule. It's the very regular Humble and Fred.
Thank you, Dan Duran. Dan Duran and I broadcasting from the same location, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know what's wrong with our show? What's that? Let me get right to it. Here's what's wrong with our show. We play that Humble and Fred promo off the top of the program today like it's a professional outfit. And I'm looking at you, and you're sort of giggling. I'm laughing again. I look over at Dan, and there's nothing more than a wry smile of disgust. It's just, that's what's wrong. Is that it turns out in the end, forget the thousands of people that download the program. It's just you and me that think it's funny.
Yeah. But you know what's good about our show? I'll tell you a good thing about the show and how this always happens. Dan, listen, no communication today. We didn't talk about anything. And he ends that intro by talking about our bowel movements, right? Mm-hmm. And my main takeaway from the past week, the one thing that I thought I might talk about if it came up was I was horribly constipated for a couple of days last week.
God, I had
and
no
he
idea.
talks about, in there he just says bowel movements, and I'm in agony. Well, not agony, but very uncomfortable. A day and a bit last week.
Well, can we just put your boom booms aside just for a second? And can we do this? It's like, can we circle back to that in a second?
Yeah.
See, that's
Absolutely.
what I just like sometimes to use the language of grown-ups. Because, we don't have grown-up meetings, we don't do grown-up things, but I like to use the language of grown-ups when it comes to our nonsense. So that promo, back to that thing, again, I thought it was hilarious. You thought it was funny. Dan, wry smile. But you know who, and I played it for a couple people. I certainly...
Right.
And here's the thing in my life. I know there are people I could play it for, and there are people who I couldn't play it for. They would be disgusted by it. Mm-hmm. So my friend who lives in New Brunswick, Grant, I talk about him once in a while. He thought it was hilarious. He played it for his wife, who's like your wife, a sweet angel from heaven. Her name's Hope. She thought it was ridiculously disgusting. And you know who I played it for that thought it was funny? My kids.
Yeah.
Both of my daughters, I sent
that doesn't surprise me.
I sent it to Charlie and Spencer individually. They both came back and they were like, first Spencer was, that's funny. Then her next line was, it's disgusting, but it's funny. So that's what we're up against. It's a lifelong struggle.
You raised them right. There you go.
Where did I go? What did I go wrong with you?
By the way, on that note, your kids in comedy, how did Spencer's March 7th night go?
Well, it was sold out, about 100 people. And from all reports, from Mama, from Sister, and from Spencer themselves, it couldn't have gone better. Spencer said it was the best thing, one of the best performances she's ever given. It all went, the tech went great, the video components, the the performance. Got all the words out. People thought it was funny. And this week, hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll receive a copy of it, and I will share it with you, too. I appreciate you asking. That's very nice.
Looking forward to that. Well, on March 7th, actually, that day, I thought about it a few times, thinking, I wonder what she's going through, and the big night was tonight. Good for her.
Well, Dan will attest that I was here, and we were doing something, but I kept messaging her, and then when we went to sleep, and I when it was over, I kept trying to get some report from somebody. But yeah, I was on pins and needles. Okay, Dan.
Yes.
We're going to circle back now.
Circle back to the constipation thing?
How does one first discover one has constipation?
It was a discomfort, and then I just noticed I hadn't gone for a while. And I never suffer from this, really. And when you're down in places like the Dominican Republic, it's usually the other way, right?
Sure.
You have trouble with dysentery or whatever you want to call it.
No, it's not dysentery.
What is it?
It's diarrhea.
Diarrhea.
Sounds
more clinical.
You're suffering from dysentery. Get some vegetables and some fruit.
Anyway,
Fred's been at sea.
What is dysentery? What is it?
I think it used to happen to like pirates and seagoers.
No, that was scurvy.
Oh, okay. Thank God. It's been a while since I went to medical school. Dysentery is an infection of the intestines that causes diarrhea. But if you have dysentery, it's diarrhea that contains blood or mucus.
Oh,
okay, you're right. It's not. It's not
people
scurvy.
Suffer from that. People suffer from that often down here. Anyway, I was the other way, and it was just a discomfort. And then you think you have to go, and you go, and nothing happens. And then I sort of got this nauseous feeling. And then my actual lower abdomen, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, Joe Biden.
Got sore. But then my little wife came to the rescue, because sometimes she suffers from such things, and she gave me this little natural laxative that took about 12 hours to work, and before that she gave me a suppository.
Oh, great. She didn't install it, did she?
No.
Did she just happen to have one?
She's got a
I'm not surprised. No, dude, I'm not surprised. Randy's the same. Ex-wife Randy's, and they're gypsies. They travel with their pouch of medicines, charcoal this and suppository that.
Yeah, and it was great. Actually, I did 2 of them. The first one felt so good. When you think about it, she says, take it. It's like, I don't want to do that. And then you think, grow up. For the sake of a couple of seconds and just ramming it up there. What's the big deal? Yeah,
it's no big deal unless you stay there for a while.
Although I
put your suppository up. Okay, Fred, it's up there. No, but this feels pretty good.
Just before I took the second one, I had been out on the beach, so there was some sand on my fingers.
Oh, great.
And I didn't know that, so when that went up, that was a bit angry. But other than that, I was fine.
I'm sorry. Okay. So, dysentery, symptoms of dysentery can include painful stomach cramps, feeling sick, or being sick, in brackets, vomiting. So maybe you had a little touch of the dysentery.
No, I was constipated.
Oh, right. Sorry,
right.
I've lost track of where we were. Right.
Just to circle back.
Circle back again.
Usually, when you're in places like the Dominican,
yes, you get right.
You get dysentery, and then you thought I was, that was the wrong description, but it turns out it was maybe the right description.
Right. You did have painful stomach cramps.
More a soreness. Anyway. And you know what it was? I was out on the beach and walking in the sun, not drinking enough water. And I think I got a little dehydrated. So let that be a lesson to you all.
Fred, reporter Dan Duran has a question.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you not to extend this bit too much longer, but I did want to know what it was that got you into that state. But you've just addressed that.
Yeah.
With
I would like to address the fact that you don't want this bit to go on any longer. And I'm just thinking, how much longer can we have this to go on? I mean, this is where we change. You know what? Maybe we should talk about the fact that, and I don't know if this is going to affect really the podcast listener. And not that we, Mom and Dad don't play favorites. We've got the Facebook Live streaming people. Very, very nice. Very faithful. But the majority of the people that listen to this show they either subscribe and download, or they download whatever it is. But it comes out usually around, Fred Hits publish, I would say, usually around 10 a.m. Eastern time, or Toronto time, we'll call it, because it's going to get confusing. Mm-hmm. And we've started a little bit later for me and Dan today, but because where I am in Mexico, we were on the same time as Toronto, but we don't. It's whatever Eastern daylights. So daylight savings time is what Toronto's gone to, and we've stayed the same here in the Playa del Carmen, Riviera Maya area. So for you Facebook people, it started a half an hour later. For the podcast people, we'll still publish around the same time.
Yeah. It's again, nothing changed here other than back home everybody's on the same schedule as us now. We were an hour later up until Saturday, which is something you're always thinking about. It's so much more convenient when you're on the same time now. It really is, as you know.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, where we are, they don't change. Same in, is Saskatchewan, Dan, the only province in Canada that doesn't adjust their clocks?
I believe that's true.
And we had this discussion that I thought it was because of the farmers that we did that, but it's not because of the farmers. It was because of the war.
Something to do with the war and trying to save, I think it was the First World War. I don't know. Trying to save electricity or whatever with the war effort. Resources and whatever.
Dougie Ford was back on it last week talking about wanting to end it for Ontario, or thinking that Canada generally should stop. But again, the coordination with the United States is the issue. But it does seem silly, doesn't it, at this point? All things considered.
And I appreciate Dan informing me about that, because my whole life being a farmer from Saskatchewan, I thought it was initiated because to give the farmers more time to seed
Harvest.
and plow.
Yeah.
Dan, what do you got over there?
No, I was just double checking to make sure that it's just Saskatchewan and Canada that doesn't do the clocky thing. But in Ontario, we talked about this before. In Ontario,
I'm sure we have.
There's laws that will trigger as soon as, like, New York State or whatever. If they ever change, then we change.
Right.
Something to do with stock exchanges and stuff. I don't know.
Quebec won't do it until New York State does it, and of course, Toronto or Ontario won't do it if Quebec doesn't do it, because there's too many ties economically, apparently. Again, which you can understand. But, they need a meeting. Just stop. I mean, really.
Yeah. And people, we've only been doing 13 minutes of this show, and already look at the information that has been disseminated. We now know the distinction between constipation and dysentery. Mm-hmm. Scurvy is a disease, by the way, that occurs when you have a severe lack of vitamin C.
When I was a kid, my mom used to say that, eat your vegetables, you'll get scurvy. She actually said that to me, and it scared the shit out of me. And then even back then, I did a little research. Apparently, when you get scurvy, your gums come right down over your teeth. Right down over your teeth.
It causes general weakness, gum disease, and poor wound healing. Although it's fairly rare nowadays. I don't know about you guys, because we've all lived into our 70th or 7th decade. I've not run into a scurvy sufferer. So, Dan, I mean, you're the oldest among us. Have you? When you came,
We've cured scurvy.
we
That
have.
one's done, yeah.
You know, it's funny because of all the golf tournaments I've hosted, I've never done a scurvy charity.
No.
I've never had to. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming out today. Your money that was spent is gone to help the children of scurvy. The scurvy children. Little Timmy, look at his gums.
What's with you, Tim? Hey, come on over here and gum me, buddy.
look at his wounds. They're healing poorly. Now let's go to the live auction.
You know, on that note, I still don't know anybody that has suffered, let alone died from the COVID vaccine or even suffered horrible side effects from the vaccine. But I'm reading today, you know, there's a measles outbreak, and they think part of it is tied to hesitancy now with vaccines, thanks to all the anti-vaxxers who spread all the bullshit, you know, over the past 2 or 3 years. So now people, when it comes to vaccines, are having second thoughts and thinking, oh, maybe I won't. So just another byproduct of that nonsense is affecting us now. Not to get too serious.
No, it's funny. Can I circle back to that? Because I just remembered. I just remembered something I said that made Dan laugh when we were talking about the daylight savings, and I found out that it wasn't the farm people; it was World War II. I said, that's just another bit of propaganda from Big Pharma. Big Farm. Well, here's the other thing. None of us took the scurvy vaccine, and we're doing fine.
No, we could really, you know, with all the misinformation out there, and you know, things are, you know, primed for people wanting to, you know, like I hop on another conspiracy theory.
Agreed.
This would be a good way for you guys to make some money. You can, start with the MAGA folks and do the whole scurvy thing.
Like convince the MAGA people that they need to get vaccinated for scurvy.
Or something that gives that get them to give you money to help with the scurvy.
Help fight scurvy disinformation.
Maybe that. Anyway, there's something there for
absolutely there is
for scurvy sufferers, which I saw whenever I see it.
I saw a thing on the weekend. Speaking of MAGA. Conspiracy and conspiracy theories. This British reporter talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene about supporting Donald Trump, and then she said, "Why is it so many Trump reporters? Why do so many Trump reporters buy into conspiracy theories?" And then, Marjorie says, "We don't. It's the left media and other propaganda machines that buy into it." And she says, "No." The reporter says, "No, but, like you, what about the Jewish laser beam thing?"
Yeah.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene's response was, "Fuck off." And walked away.
It was actually,
did you see that?
I did. It was actually pretty funny.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and you said what you meant to say is supporters, not reporters, because you said so many Trump reporters.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have the clip somewhere, but it actually kind of made me laugh. She got all annoyed and just said, "Fuck off,"
and walks away. That's just another thing. If that had happened 10, 15 years ago, and somebody in Congress had done that, would have been the news of the day,
huge,
top to bottom. Yeah.
Is it Kimmel that? And we're going to get to the Oscars and Kimmel, and I've got some great audio. But is it Kimmel that calls her Marjorie Taylor Greene, or is that Keith Olbermann?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Doesn't Kimmel call her something like trash mom or something? Or
the whole gang of them are so distorted. They're just such distorted human beings. If we can, again, not to get this serious. And I want to circle back again to Dan Duran's visit to Mexico, because it has been...
Oh, yeah.
It has been just a whirlwind. I've been calling it the Dan Duran Mexican Adventure. Today, Dan Duran is departing today. We'll get back to Dan, and because I know you're bursting with stories for Fred. You know how Dan Duran loves a story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That noise, by the way, is the Dan Duran microphone, which is, I'll turn it off for a second. So we'll get to the adventure, but back to Marjorie Taylor Greene. You want to talk about decorum or I don't know, I guess there's no better word. Just sort of standard issue respect, you would have never, ever seen, and again, I don't want to get too deep into Trump, although we do have some really funny Trump stuff, about the State of the Union. I didn't watch it, but I did see highlights of it, and I think most people listening have heard or maybe have seen highlights where she came into that room, the Congress, where the president gives the State of the Union, and unlike every single person in that room who are wearing suits and business attire, she's wearing the stupid red MAGA hat and a T-shirt about an immigrant that was someone that got killed by an immigrant. It just was, in our lifetimes, you would have never seen that before. And then screaming and then yelling out to the president while he's doing the State of the Union.
Mm-hmm. How about that woman that offered the rebuttal? I forgot her name. That was just something else, man. That was something freaking else.
Can I just say this? Like, what I'd like to see happen, though, or what should have happened, well, how come no Democrats yelled to Trump when he's giving the State of the Union? Like, you've never seen that before.
I know. Well, it's just where we're at. That's what it's all about. And, he's tapped into that, and there's just millions and millions of people that thought what she did that night was fantastic. The boundaries have been chopped down, and too many people love it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, the woman that gave the rebuttal, Congresswoman, can't remember her name, Kate something, I think.
Yeah. What's
her name, Dan?
Briss or something like that?
Kate Briss. Briss is, yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
No, you know what a bris is, though?
It's something to do with Jewish.
It's a circumcision.
That's the bris.
That's the bris. It's called the bris.
You mean the actual action, or is it just the whole?
Well,
ceremony?
It's the ceremony is called a bris. I don't know what the actual action is. The circumcision. So in her rebuttal, she talked about a woman who had been raped, and she made up this whole story and how she had met the woman, and it was because of Biden's immigration policies. Well, it turns out that woman, unfortunately, was raped, part of the sex trafficking world in 2004 to 2008 during the George Bush presidency, etc.
Yeah.
It was a big, giant lie is what it was, and yet, of course, the right-wing media hasn't reported that it turns out to be a lie. That's the problem.
Her name's Katie Britt.
Not Briss.
And she was on with George Stephanopoulos yesterday, and I caught some of that, where he asked the question that I want to hear so much. He said, how can you... Because apparently she's a rape victim, this Katie Britt, which is horrible. But he said, as someone that's been through what you've been through, how can you support Donald Trump, a man who has been found liable for rape? And she defends Trump. Like, it's crazy. And her argument was it was a civil case, not a criminal case.
No, I know, it's crazy.
So that makes it better. Anyway, you'd have to see it. And again, it was just another indication of where we're at. There she sits there and she defends this this man found liable for rape, and she's defending him.
That was Nancy Mace, by the way.
Yeah, you're getting them mixed up.
What?
The State of the Union woman was Katie Britt. Nancy Mace was the woman that was on with George.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, it's a different.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah.
Although I can see you getting them mixed up because they sort of they have a similar look. But yeah, Nancy Mace is another Trump apologist who, by the way, the day of the January 6th, the day after she was basically on, and George Stephanopoulos played the tape of her saying that Donald Trump is unfit to be the president.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How come that doesn't matter to anything? Fucking people. It doesn't. It really doesn't. None of these people give a shit about. All of us. If we got caught in a lie, you might be able to say, "Well, I didn't mean that." And then someone shows you the tape and go, "All right, I'm fucking lying." All right, you got me. I lied.
No, it's yeah. And yeah, what do you say to that? If that's acceptable, then I guess everything is. And even Stephanopoulos, I wish he'd have said, well, what about the grab him by the pussy thing, like way back then? What about that? But I don't think they touch on that enough. Yeah. Again, it doesn't matter, does it?
And then, of course, the hypocrisy, as I said to Dan, the hypocrisy is 1 minute she's saying You're rape shaming me. She kept saying that over and over again. That was her talking point, as we discussed. And then, of course, the next second, she's saying that E. Jean Carroll was raped civilly, but not criminally.
Yeah.
And so she goes from saying you're rape shaming me to she's shaming that person. Like, again, it's all. That's why I know that what I said a few minutes ago. They're just distorted human beings.
And before she appeared on that show yesterday, there had been discussions. If he brings up the rape because you've been raped, this will be your response.
Yeah.
Throw it back in his face. And again, it's all so predictable and disappointing. And,
well, you're right.
Very disheartening.
You're right, Fred. It was a talking point, and it kept going. That if you watch that clip, it's like, I don't know, 6-7 minutes long.
Well, the first 6, and the whole thing's 9, but the first 6 minutes is that confrontation for sure.
And it just is, it's repeated over and over, this cycle. It's like she repeats the exact same thing. And he tries to word it differently or ask the question differently, and it's the exact same response. And she was, before she even hit the TV station, she would have,
absolutely.
had her people like, okay, here, I'll be George, and you do this, and this is what you do.
That's right. It's like what we do rehearsing the show. Okay, I'll be Fred.
No. I'll tell you what it reminds me of is when I was a program director in Peterborough, a couple of times with the general manager before we had a meeting, we would sort of play act, what if this comes up, how will you respond? And we would actually throw things back and forth across the table. I thought it was a bit of overkill, but hey, why not? I was learning something. And that's what those politicians go through.
Of course.
She sat in a room the day before and somebody pretended they were George Stephanopoulos, and that's what you get.
Dan and I did a thing where I pretended I was George Stroumboulopoulos, and I denied. It was pretty disappointing, and because the clip doesn't matter what the truth is, it matters what the clip is. But again, what I find fascinating is they don't seem to care that the other side of the narrative, the rest of us, all thought it was bullshit. It's what they can explain to their people. And so what she did is she said to the doughheads that follow Trump, he wasn't convicted criminally of rape. You call him a rapist. I call him a rapist. But to the doughheads out there in doughhead country, that's enough cover for them.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, from our perspective, and pretty much everyone I know, to a person, you would look at that and you would say how disgusting that is, that she's apologizing for this pig, and it's just not right, it's not just, it's not decent. And then you start to think of all the people in America that are sitting there agreeing with her.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's happened to the world, man? Wow.
That's the we always joke about, you actually even said it at the start of the show, like, know the room or play to the room or understand your audience. I will give them this, if I can say anything I admire about them. They know their crowd. They really do. And that, if you can take anything away from it in terms of like what they're great at, they're great at that. They really are. Way better than the Democrats. Because as I said, I've never heard a Democrat yell at a Republican president during the State of the Union. I just didn't think. In fact, up until the last couple, I didn't even think you were allowed to. There's apparently a law, I don't know if you saw this, Dan, where you're not allowed to wear campaign paraphernalia in the House during those proceedings. And, of course, she's festooned in MAGA crap. But let's, guys, let's circle away from this.
Sounds like romantic Mexican music.
Si, senor. Dan Duran's Grande Adventure. So, Fred, just before we hit record today, you said, so, Dan, how's it been going? Over to you, Dan.
Well, Howard's been a great a great tour guide, a great itinerary planner. There was not a moment that wasn't scheduled. We even scheduled free time, which is
free time.
Yeah, we had some free time, and I saw caves and turtles, and he knows everything.
Tourists, lots of tourists.
We saw tourists, but we managed all of the tours that we were on happened to be lightly attended for our own personal guides. So we were just saying it's been quite the experience hanging out with this gentleman here, and I appreciate everything that he's done to make my trip, short as it is, fantastic.
No, I'll come over here and hug me.
Yeah, there we go. That's why.
Did you
romantic.
see any fellow German tourists, Dan?
Right next door, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I live next door to, there's a German family that moved here for a year.
Oh.
And they live next door. And of course, they came when they saw Dan. They said, "Oh, the great Bratwurst is here." That's what they call him.
If they had you over for schnitzel?
He comes with his own schnitzel.
There's a German restaurant here the other night. I'll send you a picture of it. I had a pork knuckle, and it looked like a whole roast on my plate. But
Really?
I ate it. Pork knuckle, delicious.
That's my. But I ate it. It looked.
I did.
It was the size of a roast, but I didn't care. I will tell you about Dan Duran's adventure. Well, there's 4 or 5 things I wanted Dan to experience here, and we got around to all of them. We did a lot of traveling. We were in Tulum. We were in Acumel. We were in Puerto Aventuras, where I live. We were in Playa del Carmen a couple of times. Dan had never been on that Fifth Avenue strip. Most people who have come down here have seen that. It's kind of like Las Vegas in Mexico. It's just, imagine a street like Yonge Street from front to at least past the 401. That's how long that street is. It's huge. It's maybe not that long, but it's miles and miles of shops and people.
It's only people in shops. There's no vehicles. It's closed to traffic.
Right. And
it's packed all the time.
And we had a great time. So when I don't know if I want to get into we were accosted by angry Jews, but maybe I'll do that story tomorrow.
Save the Jew story for tomorrow.
I'll save the angry Jew story till tomorrow.
Yeah.
We were accosted on the street.
What about Palestinians? Did you run into any?
No.
This had nothing to do with that.
No, it was. I was attacked personally. Anyway, what is it about me? Why don't I draw in controversy wherever I go?
I was just going to ask that question. What is it about you?
I literally was sitting on a bench next to my Germanic friend, and I am accosted by renegade Jews. That's for tomorrow's program. Because
they thought you were Larry David?
Yes. I look nothing like Larry David. Okay,
you to me.
Yeah, all you Jews look the same. So Dan's trip, though, we had lots of fun.
What about the caves? I want to know about the caves because I'm claustrophobic.
Well, they're not. You're not like in a. It's called Rio Secreto, and what that means, it's a secret river, and they have. You've been down here. People, anyone that's visited here knows about the cenotes, and they're these caves, and they're these rock formations under the ground. Some of them are open, and you can sort of swim in them. But this series of caves is 40 kilometers long, and then you go on a tour through it, and you're wearing wetsuits and it's quite fascinating. I'd never done it, and when I was told about it, I thought, this is the kind of thing that Dan Duran would enjoy. Daniel?
Right. Yeah, no, it was. You start out dry for the first short while, and then you're basically in water for most of the rest of the walk through the case. It wasn't. We didn't do 40 kilometers.
No. It was like a couple hours you're down there.
And if you are claustrophobic, it may have been. There was some tight passages, but
mostly you're standing up, right? I mean, you're like. It's not like you're in a tiny cave. I mean, these are huge formations of stalactites and troglodytes and
stalagmites,
stalagmites. Yeah.
The tights and mites.
But it's not. It's some of these openings, like they're huge, cavernous, but it's fascinating. So it was just David and his lady Ruth and I and Dan, and we had a guide, and it was and you're not always in water. You're in and out. You're walking through the thing, and he's explaining it. And at one point, and you're wearing helmets with a little light on, like a miner's helmet. And at one point, which was my favorite part of the tour. Because that's the only thing lighting your way are these little lamps. And he has us gather in one little area, and he says, okay, turn your lights off. And you experience like true darkness, like there's like the absence of light darkness. It was pretty cool. And then after we ate a buffet of Mexican food.
Right after, yeah.
Right after. That was part of the tour.
It was a lot like one of those isolation tanks when it was dark like that. Have you ever done that, Fred? Have you ever gone into a saltwater tank and done that whole thing?
No, I know Howard. Didn't we? Yeah, he somewhere in Toronto. You go and lay in those saltwater things or whatever. No, I haven't, Dan.
Because
as far as the complete darkness too, I could have saved the money and just closed my eyes. But that's the way I look at it.
What's how you did what?
I say you talk about, he gets to turn the light off in complete darkness. I'm saying I could have saved the money and just closed my eyes. But
yeah, yes, it's very funny. It's different. It's because even when you close your eyes,
how's it different?
Here's why. Because even when you close your eyes, there's still some light that filters in through, somehow. But this was like that phrase, pitch black. It was just something else.
And it comes with a feeling.
And you're standing in at that point we were up to our necks in water at that point. So that was one day that it was crazy.
Okay.
So we did that. We did the swimming with the turtles yesterday. And Dan saw the turtles, and the turtles saw Dan.
That was fascinating.
You've never seen a turtle before.
You ever swam with the turtle, smart guy? Okay.
No.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you
Are they big?
Huge. Some were huge.
Huge.
Yeah, big.
So
huge.
they're actually tortoises then.
Tortugas, yes. They were big men. Mm-hmm. I know. I could close my eyes and just see a turtle and save the money.
Fred never goes out anymore because he always
I don't even eat. I just close my eyes and think about food. Save the money. No. You went swimming with pork knuckles.
It was good.
But the Dan Duran, as I called it, the Dan Duran Mexican Adventure was so much fun. We had a couple of great dinners. We had a bunch of adventures. Took Dan hitting. This is the thing I thought you'd find somewhat interesting. Hang on. I took Dan and my brother. We went and hit golf balls the other day. And this Dan Duran fella, I got to tell you, it's weird. He's so good at it. It's kind of weird because you never play. When was the last time you would have touched a golf club? Other than your own?
I think it would. Did we go golfing last year? I think
me and you?
Yeah, because I would only
the summer. I think the summer before we went.
Yeah, so okay, that would have been the last time. The only time I ever go golfing, generally speaking, is with Darren and Fred.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we were at Baxter's Creek. Howard, I've told you, it on some level it annoys me because he's just got such a nice fluid whip action stroke or something, and the ball just travels the way it's supposed to, and it's something. Yeah,
I've played off and on over the years I've known Dan. Once in a while, every few years we would have been on a golf course or I'd seen him hit a golf ball, and Saturday was no exception. After a couple of warm-up swings, he just gets up there and he hits it pretty good. I mean, decent. And then gave him a little this or that, and next thing you know, he's hitting everything straight. But he's just, and I have a theory as to why Dan has good hand-eye coordination. It's because he's so good with his hands. Now, most people know that Dan's a master craftsman and a carpenter and a guy that can fix stuff. And it's got to be because his relationship to the coordination that it takes to hit a golf ball, it's got to come from somewhere, because you weren't really into like sports and stuff when you were a kid.
No, not really.
So how do you explain it? Jesus? Did you pray to Jesus before?
My religious background. That's exactly it. Yeah. See, God has guided my hand. That's what it is.
Has he?
Dan is very balanced that way. He can fix anything and he can break anything too.
Oh yeah. Well, there's been a few breakages. You don't get out of the Dan Duran vortex without something being broken.
Yeah, I broke my beer bottle in the first hour. The first hour I got here.
Well, you dropped it.
Dropped it on.
Just kicked it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
But how would you gauge my reaction to it?
Considered. It was, like you didn't fly off the handle or anything. Like that.
Well, why would you? Why
I don't know.
Fly off?
Because I got that reputation.
Well, he did fly off the handle later about crackers.
Fuck!
We went shopping for treats and stuff.
This guy's unbelievable.
Why? Well, tell me that story, please.
So yesterday, we're in the grocery store yesterday. Now it's day 6 of Dan Duran and his quirkiness. So okay. I said, listen, because David and his lady are coming over for dinner, and David likes this caramel popcorn. And so we had, like, Ruth brought over some pico de gallo, which she makes. It's amazing, onion and tomato and avocado. It's amazing. So we have that with some, tortilla chips.
Right, which
Then
is
we have
great,
this
yeah.
huge feed of Thai food. Then the idea was while we were watching the Oscars, which we did, we would have some of this caramel porn, which is a whole different category of porn.
Yeah.
We would have some caramel popcorn, which I kind of combine with regular popcorn as our treat. So we're shopping yesterday, and Dad's like, well, I don't like popcorn. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I don't like eating it. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? I want crackers. Well, that's not the same category as a dessert treat.
But it's not, you're just, somehow we got into this argument, and I think he thought it was for more of an appetizer kind of crunching away or something.
Yeah, he wants Mary's crackers, and he wants to go back to the appetizer phase.
Not really. It's just that I'm not a big popcorn fan because it just, once you start popcorn, you can't stop. And there's all the little kernels. It gets caught in your teeth. I'm not a big fan of it. So I try to stay away from popcorn. And then, I like crunchy things, and crackers fits the bill for me. I don't like potato chips that much either. I mean, a few of them are okay, but then it's just, then I start to, the oils or something come out. I just don't.
Oh, no, I know what you mean about that.
Yeah.
Lisa's the same way with popcorn. I love it. I pop popcorn all the time. Add pepper and hot sauce.
Yeah, so
but it gets caught in her teeth and everything too.
But the point was, I'm trying to put together this evening, and I'm trying to get. We're getting some. This was after we had come back from the Turtles, and so now I've got to okay, what can I get for you? Do you want cookies?
We're in a big department store.
Big, and
Huge,
so
massive.
so Dan opted for 3 types of nuts. He was just kept pulling nuts off the shelf.
Partially because there was Cool Nuts. You can buy Cool Nuts, and another package is Hot Nuts. You can buy Hot Nuts, which I bought the Hot Nuts.
Maybe I am like Larry David.
I don't even know why it was a deal.
Oh no, I was.
Dan, I'm sitting here going, what's the big deal? He wanted popcorn and you wanted something else.
He wanted crackers.
Is he not allowed to have
if
something
somebody's
else?
coming to your home, you're having a dinner, you're putting together a menu, you've got the appetizers, you've got the main course, and you're putting out a dessert. Are you supposed to go, okay, listen, for dessert we're having pie, but Dan's like, I'd like Wiener Schnitzel.
This wasn't dessert.
This was dessert.
Sitting around watching
the popcorn was the dessert course.
Caramel corn was dessert?
That was the watching the Oscars sort of after the meal. Yes, it was the dessert course. Anyway. Controversy.
I don't know what to say.
Controversy on day 6.
Yeah.
You talk about letting yourself be aggravated over nothing. I can't relate to that.
Well, again, we've been with each other for now 7 days. Maybe it got a bit much. I could have gotten carried away. I admit it. Listen now, what do we got to do? Because Dan Duran has nowhere to go. He's just going to sit here.
Yeah, no, I'm going to work on my news thing.
Dan is going to work on his
In
news.
the background. I'll just go over in the other room there, so I don't distract you from your.
Well, you listen, man. But I will tell you before you go, it's been one of the great joys of my life having you here in Mexico.
Well, thank you. That's great.
We've had some pretty big laughs.
We have had laughs.
I'll tell you one thing. This is, by the way, if I may say, Dan, and I won't say exactly the phrase that we use, but this Dan Duran's not kidding around when it comes to the fat. He don't like them. He don't like the fat.
That's not true.
It's true.
It's so not true.
Fred, you think it's a bit? You think it's a bit? No bit.
No, it's not a bit.
Not a bit.
I know it's not a bit.
Anyway, I'll go prepare my news.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dan Duran.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask him what his favorite meal so far was.
Oh, yeah, Dan. Yeah, Fred wants to know what was your favorite meal
so far.
That's the meal that we went to that restaurant,
the Mexican restaurant.
The Mexican restaurant.
That was really cool.
It was a interesting experience because the food was it tasted amazing, but it was a huge place, and they crank people through there. There's a long lineup. You're in the line for 5 minutes. It looks like you're going to be there for half an hour. There's like 30 waiters at least on the floor, pushing the food around and getting people, but they're almost running. So the food was fantastic. The weird thing is that we all felt we had to eat fast. And I don't know why. Halfway through the meal, I said, I don't know why.
I know. And we had a lot of food, Dan and I. And at some point, Dan goes, fuck, I just feel frantic. I go, why? He goes, because everyone's just running around me.
Oh, you pick up on that vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a place I've been to now 3 or 4 times. It's a very authentic Mexican restaurant, way off the strip. Like, it's not in the touristy part. And you'd love it, man.
The down here, you got to get used to waiting. Some are okay, and then others. But I've had a couple of times down here over 90 minutes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That German place I was talking about, the first time we went there, it was like, got there at 7, and our food came at like 8:40 or something.
I'm surprised the Germans are known for their efficiency. You know?
Oh, no. There's not you can't judge a book by its cover, but I don't think there's any Germans in this German restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there's pork knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I was going to say something.
You ever had the crackle of a pork knuckle?
No.
The sort of skinny stuff. It's skin, and they call it crackle, and it's delicious.
All right, well, Dan, that was probably, and one of my favorite places to bring people is that restaurant. And if you ever came here, Fred, that's where we would go. Let's get some business done. And by the way, great news! Our friend Brett Tanner is going to join us from Tanner Financial. They curate the chamber plan. We're going to get some information about that fantastic company, and of course they've been supporting us for a long time, Freddie. But let's first talk about these fine folks.
Yeah, later in the week on Wednesday, to be exact, I believe it's the return of Tim Niblett. Tim, a portfolio manager. Raymond James, a member of the Canadian Investors Protection Fund. Tim, it's a standing offer from Tim and Jay Brody. If you have a portfolio and you're not quite sure whether it's performing to the level it should, you've been asking around, you just get the feeling that something ain't right, Tim will give it a look. He'll take a second look at that for you and sort of give you a state of your investment, whether it's on track or it's not. No obligation, no pressure whatsoever. If it's doing well, he'll tell you. If not, well, then maybe you can make some decisions with the Retirement Sherpa. RetirementSherpa.ca.
Let's talk about our one of our newest sponsors and supporters, Mike Kazarian from Lender's Choice Mortgages. He's one of the owners of that outfit, an independently owned and operated member of the Mortgage Alliance, license 13582. By now, you've probably gotten the vibe that with all these mortgages coming due this year and next, millions of Canadians are going to have to find a different price point for your mortgage, and that can mean a very expensive monthly payment. What Mike can do and what they do at Lender's Choice is they take their experience in this business for many, many years and they help you achieve your goals. They're going to work with you on a mortgage that makes the most sense, whether it's a short-term, variable, whatever the idea is. We're going to get not just the best rate, but the best rate and the length of time that fits your kind of plans. And that's the kind of thing that they do. Similar to the Sherpa, they find out what are your goals. And they work with banks as well as credit unions, monoline lenders, alternative lenders, and private lenders as well. They'll find a solution for all your mortgage financing needs. Lender's Choice Mortgages, lenderschoice.ca. Dan Duran has just slipped out onto the balcony. I realize I just sort of laughed. I said to Dan, well, you haven't heard the end of this cracker incident. It's one of those things where, in the moment it was kind of like fun and funny. But, overall we've had the greatest time. The reason I'm talking about him, because he's outside, is that, Dan, can you just shut the screen door? He doesn't, he's not big. At his trailer, you ever walk into his trailer, he's always like, you can shut the door. But here he doesn't, doors, Dan's not big on doors and lights. He doesn't shut them. He doesn't see them. But as I said to you on a note, when he comes back, I have a Dan Duran sighting.
What do you mean sighting?
Well, we often talk about one of Dan's attributes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my friend.
Well, I asked you. Remember, we did that whole madcap bit a couple of weeks ago about him going down there and having a showing. He would show the neighbors and just get it out of the way. Dan Rand's coming. And I had asked you, had he last week? I said, Dan's there. Has there been a showing?
Well, there has been.
And apparently there was.
It was a private showing for one, but I'm still getting over it.
Was this in the Capes?
No. This actually happened, he got here Tuesday afternoon, evening. This was, I believe, like Wednesday morning. First thing.
I feel bad for Dan, too, because you talk about he wasn't there long in the beer bottle. I think it's to the point where he is so conscious of not doing something like that, then he gets fumbly or something, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Did the bottle break?
Yeah. But I thought, because my response was like, hey, it's no big deal. I've done it. And I didn't. I didn't make a big deal of it because I don't want anybody to feel bad. And I don't think I didn't make you feel bad, did I?
No, because I know how you are.
What does that mean? I know how you are.
Well, I don't take it personally.
But I didn't. I thought I handled it like a sweet angel man that I am.
Which thing?
The beer bottle.
Oh yeah, that was handled fine.
Okay, that was handled fine.
Throwing the water bottle at me was handled.
Oh, I did that as fun though. Yeah, one morning, I had a water bottle here, because Dan, I like to surprise Dan with stuff. So Dan, he's getting the coffee ready, and I just woke up. I said, "Good morning, Dan Duran," and I had like an empty water bottle, plastic water bottle. He just looked at me and said, "Good morning," and I just tossed it at him, I did it just to make you laugh, and it worked. Sweet Dan. Anyway, we got to talk about a couple other things other than the Dan Duran Mexican Adventure. For instance, you didn't watch any of the Academy Awards last night.
No.
I wouldn't have watched it either, but my brother and his lady wanted to, and I said, yeah, let's do that. Let's have an Academy Award watching party featuring popcorn and crackers.
This place I've rented, I told you it's a fantastic location, but it really was in no condition to rent to somebody for a couple of months. And don't get me wrong, most things are functional and it's okay. But the latest thing is on the weekend, the TV just stopped working.
No.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, and again, it's not woe is me. When you come to these places, it's sort of a crapshoot sometimes. It's just the facility that it's in, the complex, and what we paid. It just, they don't measure up. But again, the latest thing is the television. So if I had wanted to watch it on my computer, maybe, but I didn't watch the Oscars.
Are you going to get your TV fixed? Because you're going to be there another month.
Yeah, hopefully. The guy said he's going to send a technician over, and I'm thinking, technician? These TVs nowadays, they don't need technicians. They need a garbage bin.
That's right.
That's what they need,
They need to be replaced. Well, I wouldn't have watched it. It's not something... They did two things, though, that I think helped. They shortened it, and they started it earlier. So it started at 7 p.m. Eastern, so here it started at 6 p.m., which was great because they gave out the Best Picture Award at 10:20 in Toronto, which was 9:20 here, and it was great. A lot of it I wasn't paying too much attention because I just, and again, I know it's easy for us to say, but they really could make the program an hour long. Give away the big awards that everyone knows, film, director, actor, actress, whatever, and the other 2.5 hours is just okay.
Sure.
Jimmy Kimmel, we're going to get to the Trump clip here in a second, but Jimmy Kimmel was great. You asked Dan and I what we thought, and Dan said, he's just okay. And I said, well, given the audience, he wasn't as biting and whatever as Jimmy Kimmel can be on his own show. There was enough of that. He just showed how good he is at that job, I thought.
And that's my impression of Jimmy Kimmel. He never leaves the impression he's trying too hard. And I imagine that's the way it was last night. Yeah. A lot of the jokes might not be as cutting and as edgy as they are on his show. But it's what you said. It's where he is. It's what he's doing. And as long as he's just comfortable and, and there's good flow, that's all you're looking for.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments where he, made some cheesy stuff, but I just chalked it up to that. Like it was a cheesy joke for basically a very cheesy crowd, but I will say it ended with him getting the biggest noise of the night was made because. And the weird thing was because this is to show you about social media. So while the Oscars are on, I'm looking at Twitter and I see that the former president of the United States is tweeting at Jimmy Kimmel, tweeting about how shitty a job he's doing.
Like he knows comedy.
Oh well, yeah. Well, he is pretty funny. And then, so I see the tweet, and then you don't really think anything of it. And then Jimmy Kimmel, just before they hand out Best Picture, he comes on and he says this.
I was told we have like an extra minute, and I'm really proud of something. I was wondering if I could share it with you. I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Blah, blah, blah. Make America great again. Okay, now, see if you can guess which former president just posted that on Truth. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time?
Listen to the noise. That is the single biggest noise that crowd made all night, as you can imagine. And what a great line.
Oh, yeah. Simple but very effective, as you can hear. But again, that's how far it's gone. A guy running for president in real time, commenting on the Oscars in a negative way. Obama maybe during the show may have said, "Hey, great job, everyone, and congratulations," or something like that, But it's just nasty and it's evil and rotten.
And it's weird. It's like...
It's weird.
It's so weird. By the way, just before we get to the next Trump clip, you know what I found out? And I wondered to myself when I found this fact out, I thought, I wonder if Fred knew this. And the actor who I really liked, and we were talking about you last night, I said, because the Holdovers, the lady that played the kitchen, I can't remember what she was in charge of the food, the kitchen lady. She won, that actress won Best Supporting Actress. And she was escorted up to the stage by Paul Giamatti, who was the star of that show. And I found out a couple days ago that Paul Giamatti's father, Bart Giamatti, used to be the commissioner of baseball, right?
Yeah, I told you that a few weeks ago, right on this show.
Did you really? Is that why? Yes. Is that where I found that out?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you've answered my question. Does Fred know?
Yes. In fact, I think I've told you that a few times over the years, to be honest, because one goes with the other quite often.
Well, it was like brand new news to me a couple days ago, and I read it somewhere. And what was the context we were talking about it?
Because I told you he had been on with Howard Stern.
Ah, right. That's where it came from.
An interview with Howard Stern, which was really it was good. It was really good. And again, Paul Giamatti, I love the guy. He's my favorite actor. But, I didn't see a lot of the films with nominees or nominations or whatever. And I saw Oppenheimer and I saw The Holdovers. And I think, what's-his-head deserved it over Giamatti. What's his name?
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I just, being honest, it's... Because, again, The Holdovers, I was a tad disappointed with it. I expected more. But, yeah.
That
makes sense to me.
David said something that is my older brother said something that is, I think, really very, very true about our habits now as moviegoers, because I started watching. So I've seen Oppenheimer, loved it, but I saw it in a movie theater.
Yeah.
I didn't see it as a streaming, entertainment. But I did watch The Holdovers, and I did start watching the Maestro, the Bradley Cooper film, and I did start watching Poor Things, the one that Emma Stone won Best Actress for.
Okay. Yeah.
And in both of those movies, I got about 10 or 15 minutes in, and I was like, nah, just not in the mood. I just wasn't feeling either of those movies. They're both great movies, I'm sure, but this was David's point, and I think it's a good one. Because we have access to film, so many film opportunities, that if you're watching them in your home, you'll bail on them in a way you never would if you'd made the effort to go to the cinema and buy your popcorn or your crackers and then, watch a movie.
No, that's a great point, because you've sort of made, you've made the investment in time of going to the theater and then paying your money. You're not going to, I don't know if I've ever walked out of a movie, and I've seen some stinkers, to be honest.
Same with me. I've walked out of one or two. I think I walked out of The Green Knight. I thought it was horrible. But anyway, I started watching Poor Things the other night. I thought, okay, well, it's Academy Award. And the first 10 or 15 minutes are just so odd, and I just wasn't in the mood for such an odd... And it's apparently a beautiful movie, and everyone was raving about it. But that's the point that Dave was making, that we have the option of a quick bail now. And some of those movies that say in yesteryears would have been like, something you would make a point of going and seeing, or you would there's this movie that's called The Zone of Interest I want to see. But I don't think that's the kind of movie I would go to a movie theater to see. I would be happy to watch that in my living room.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Bob Marley movie?
Yes.
What's it called? One Love or whatever. I really want to see it. Although my sound system's not too bad at home either. I mean, I might like to see that in a movie theater, but I won't. I know I'll end up seeing it at home. But that's really the only movie right now that I sort of have a passion to see. I also saw Barbie, and if Delise hadn't have enjoyed it, I probably would have bailed on it, to be honest. But I stayed and watched the whole thing with her because she was enjoying it. So.
It's very good. I saw it in the movie theater when Julietta visited Toronto last summer, and she enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It's got a good message. The fact that I like the vibe of the thing in terms of the people that made it, how much money it made. It was that was a global phenomenon, and people that were like, I'm not going to see that. Well, yeah, okay, fine, but you got to. Just from an interest state of what was the big deal about it?
Well, no, maybe I could have been guilty of that too, because we watched it. I said, hey, do you want to see this? And Delise said yes. If not for that, maybe I would have never even gave it a shot. And then as it unfolded, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know whether I would have, for all the reasons you just said, and it's so easy to just shut it off. I don't know whether I would have watched the whole thing, but ultimately I did. Not the best movie I've ever seen, far from it, but...
No, but you can kind of see, I agree, but you can kind of see why it was so popular.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because of when movies make that much money, it starts with a demographic, but then it expands. And those are the kind of movies where, the demographic that drives movie sales is pretty young. Mm-hmm. Not as young as it used to be, but when you can get demographics all the way up to our age going to any film, it makes a big difference. That's about it.
And heading into Barbie, without knowing a lot, that went through my mind. What could that movie possibly be about? Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, it was about something, and not bad.
Yeah, Will Ferrell's mm-hmm. good in it, mm-hmm. and I like Kate McKinnon. She's just funny in everything she does. She was funny last night when Kate McKinnon, Saturday Night Live alumnus. Anyway. So that's our Oscar. Do we have any more Oscar stuff? I'm not sure if Dan's going to touch on it in the news, but...
No, when I start YouTubing during the week, I'm sure I'll see lots of clips or is that allowed? Maybe they're not for rights.
I don't know.
Any highlights, I'm sure they'll be out there. In fact, look at this morning, the Trump thing was...
Oh, it's huge.
It was there, so there'll be other highlights available, I am sure.
Billie Eilish won for Best Song. I'd never really registered with me until I heard her sing it last night. There's a phenomenon. There's a whole world of Billie Eilish that I'm not really familiar with. I know who she is, obviously, but don't really know her music.
Yeah, I got a few on my playlist.
Do you know?
Well, I love those stories, right? Like her and her brother putting that stuff together in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And then becoming superstars. Gotta love it.
Well, no, exactly. The whole thing. And then her and her brother performing it last night in front of all those people. And you can see genuinely when she won. And again, this is the first time I've seen this program in years. But there are some moments where you see human beings, the emotion that overcomes them. There was that moment with her and her brother when they won. And when Emma Stone won, you could really see like a genuine human reaction, not fake, not put on, not an actress. And those are the kind of interesting moments. And I can't really tell you if there was a great speech or not. I think Cillian Murphy was pretty good. Robert Downey Jr. is always pretty good and, smart and snarky a bit.
Happy for him. I mean, he's got quite the story. Some of it, a lot of it self-inflicted, but that resurrection of a human being is pretty cool. And this is his first Oscar victory. He had been nominated a couple of times, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how many. Again, you sort of lose track of it. His films as a leading actor, though, have grossed over $14 billion worldwide.
Well, I'm not much of a sci-fi adventure guy, but I love the Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah, he is pretty good. All right, well, that's enough of that. I wanted to ask you, well, there's some stuff in sports, but we have, I'm not sure exactly what time is it now. So Brett Tanner's going to join us in a few minutes. Dan's going to come back and do the news. But we really should take a few seconds here and try and get some more business done if we can, sir. All right?
Right on. Whether you're a sports bettor, a horse racing fan, a poker, casino player, Bodog, your number one source of online gambling entertainment, from their industry-leading odds, world-class sportsbook, and feature-rich poker room to their fully loaded casino and race book, they've been providing Canadian players with an unparalleled gaming experience since 1994. That is Bodog.
I thought I would give a shout-out to our friends at Boron One. Right on. Let me just, I shut down so many things on my computer when we're not doing the show. It's a lot of news lately about what's going on with this company. Of course, they support the Humble and Fred show, and we've decided to support them. Well, it was an easy decision. If you want to find out more about this amazing mineral, go to boron1.com, and you'll also find out more about this amazing company. We've already talked about the element of boron and what it is. It's found all around you. And we're in constant contact with this vital element, even though we are, for the most part, not aware of it. Why it's important to become more aware of it if you're a potential investor. And of course, we make no claims about what your investment may or may not do. But if you're curious about this company, they're a junior mining company on the precipice of getting boron out of the ground, which is not easy to do. Only a few commercial operations on planet Earth, and this is about to become another one of them, and it might be a good investment for you. So go check it out at boron1.com.
Illegal fun under the sun, boy.
Hey, did you hear that Paul Giamatti's father was Bart Giamatti?
Yeah. He was a jockey.
Your wife's there. I thought she was leaving today. For some reason, March 11th stuck in my mind. But when is she going home?
She's going home on Thursday.
So this is the this will be the longest you guys have been separated
Yes.
since since Casey and the Sunshine Band were new.
Yes. Yes.
How's that
Be
feel?
weird. Well, I wish she wasn't, but she is leaving. The first little while will not be a big deal, but over time. But, I'm just a phone call away from going home whenever I want, I don't think it'll come to that because I'm enjoying this too much, this lifestyle.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, huh?
And when I look at the weather, like all through March, it's, like 4 or 5, cloudy, rainy.
Back in Toronto?
Yeah, everybody can paint whatever picture they want to that, but I'll take this until April. Thank you.
Prior to this, well, I haven't looked at the forecasts today or recently, but last week, the last few weeks in Toronto have been way above what they are. We get some courses opening in March, usually later in March in the GTA.
Yes.
But there have been many openings since the last time you and I did a show, and I've gotten news. The company I work with is ClubLink. A lot of people know that company. And they're starting to send out notices of potential openings weeks ahead of when they normally open in sort of mid to late April. It really is something. I mean, and Dan said, I think every month for the last 9 months have been above average temperatures on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's, again, bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's nice, but then why is it nice?
That's right.
Why is that?
we're enjoying this because the planet's dying.
Well, Johnny Slapshot wore shorts to school one day last week.
Wow. That's crazy.
And again, all the, I know several people that have been golfing already. I mean, some are pushing it. It's more novelty than actual makes sense, but still, you're out there, right?
Well, yeah, for sure.
To be there.
Like I've played golf in March. Some of the escarpment courses are open earlier because of the climate, nearer the escarpment. But it's very unusual for some of the other places to be open. Some of the GTA courses to start, and I guess why not? But then you think, on the other hand, I saw some pictures of the skiing conditions north of the city. They're just horrible, and that industry is impacted by it.
Oh, huge. But by the time I get home, I guess the week after you do, and by then it'll be right to the golf course, I would imagine, if things keep going the way they are. But again, we've been known to get snowstorms in April.
I was just going to say that oftentimes the last few years, April into early May have been sort of shitty.
Yep, definitely.
How about your Mid-Pack Suck Festival? What do you call them? The Mid-Pack Suck Faces?
The Mid-Pack Suck Show. Nothing's really changed. They got my interest there for a while. They went on a 7-game winning streak, and they actually beat a couple of good teams, but good teams that were suffering with some key injuries. But then when push come to shove last week, 2 games against the Bruins, they could have either moved within 1 point of the Bruins or 9 points of the Bruins, whatever it was, depending. And they lost both games, both by a score of 4-1, and the same old story. Whenever they play a team that goes into playoff mode and they're a heavy team, an aggravating team, the Leafs, they just disappear. That's the playoffs for you. Those 2 games against Boston are the playoffs. They don't like it. That's all there is to it. They just do not like it.
How do you explain? I love that phrase, by the way. When they're heavy, they're heavy teams. They're strong and they're aggressive. But how do you explain that? These kids that are on the Toronto Maple Leafs. They play hockey. They've been playing hockey their whole lives.
Well, it just so happens that their key players don't like the rough going. Like other teams have good players, like the Bruins, Marchand and Pasternak and Charlie McCoy. They're all good players too, but they'll lean in, right, instead of avoid or turn away. And that's the Leafs' problem. It's like those 2 games against Boston, like Austin Matthews is just on the perimeter. I mean, they've got it figured out. They go after Mitch Marner, and he's not feeding Matthews the puck, and he just stays on the perimeter. He just doesn't like it. He's not built for that. The team's not built for the playoffs. Hooray, hooray.
And that's coming up, by the way. The regular season is ending in this month, right?
No.
Early April?
Regular season ends April 20th. I
Jesus. April 20th.
I know. It goes on way too long. Yeah, it goes on way too long.
Yeah.
And then the other teams, Boston are what they are. They'd eat the Leafs alive in the playoffs. Florida improved themselves at the trade deadline, and Vegas is stronger, and there's just right now there's no way the Toronto Maple Leafs can win the Stanley Cup, and anything short of that, what does it mean anymore? We've been through this shit now for 7 or 8 years with the core 4. So unless they can win the Stanley Cup, what does anything mean? And they just can't. It's over already.
The guys on my golf chat, they have with the name of the golf chat usually has something to do with golf, but they're such huge Leaf fans. Mm-hmm. So I pop in every few days to see how the guys are doing, just to read up on what's going on. And I noticed, now I know why, because I knew that they'd been playing the Bruins, but I didn't realize they'd lost both of them. About midway last week, they changed the name of the chat to "Fuck the Bruins."
Yeah, like it's the Bruins' fault.
Yeah, no, but I just thought it was funny because I guess they're aggravated too. Although these guys are just such diehard fans, they never give up.
I don't get it. I just, and the Leafs don't have very good goaltending, and their defense sucks, and their best players don't show up when there's something on the line. So great.
And I don't think you're giving up.
How do you maintain your love for that? I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't feel like listen, I've known you 35 years. Mm-hmm. You hung in there for a long time. Mm-hmm. You have given it your best.
Well, here's the difference. And me and Buddy Doug were talking about this the other day again. A lot of those years when the Maple Leafs lost, they were overachieving. You didn't expect them to do that well in the playoffs. When they did well, it was like, wow.
Right.
This team underachieves.
Yeah, expectations are huge with these guys.
Yeah. And they really don't... the looks on their faces. And again, listen... and they talk about the trade deadline and adding players and this. Listen, it doesn't matter what they do that way. Unless these guys elevate their game in the playoffs, the main guys, the guys they pay all the money to, unless they elevate, what's the use? And I don't think they're capable. And that applies to John Tavares, too. I think he's been a shitty captain, and he never elevates. He doesn't. So what's it all about?
We got a couple minutes before Brett joins us. I'm not sure if you saw this story, being the former sportscaster that you are. The tour, the women's tour, it's called the NXXT Women's Pro Tour, which is a secondary, tertiary league, has come to this decision, especially where it concerns gender. They have banned this transgender golfer who had won. The person's name was Haley Davidson. They won a golf tournament in January on this tour, which they've been competing on for a couple years. And this tour has as a feeder tour for the LPGA. So if this player had continued to have success on the tour, there was a chance that they could end up playing on the LPGA Tour, and somewhere along the way, a decision was made to not allow transgender athletes to play on this tour.
And that I applaud.
I thought you would.
I just wish this would all go away. I wish just common sense could just take hold here and prevail. Like, how is that fair? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
It's just not fair to the women. And you find yourself, I'm defending women here, and then you're still evil.
Well, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the solution is, and you've said it, and I quote it all the time, have a tour for them. Have a transgender tour.
Yes.
So that they can compete against other athletes of a similar nature. And we don't need to belabor this because we've aired it out 1,000 times. But a person in a man's body that transitions to a woman in many sports,
Right.
has an unfair advantage.
Listen, I was reading a thing a couple of weeks ago. They gave all sorts of stats on transgender athletes competing with women now, and what they did in men's categories and now what they've done in women's categories. That's all the proof you need.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's just all the proof you need. Like the swimmer
Yeah.
was like 300 and some odd or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then ends up like, come on.
But
sense.
as I say, we're just sort of treading water here speaking of swimming, while we get ready for Brett Tanner, it's been too long since we've had a conversation. And this story, we can come back to it another time.
Well, you ain't going away.
No. I'll tell you who's... There's a guy that loves his sports. Hockey, golf. Brett Tanner, how are you, my friend? And Happy New Year. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Great. Where are you this morning, Brett?
I'm in Markham.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah, well, Markham has been pretty good. It's been pretty good weather this whole winter. Have you gone away? Have you been to the Tanner Estates in Florida?
Only twice. We were finishing at a place up north, and just I feel for the people up north. I mean, these businesses relying on snow, and there really hasn't. We got a couple of dumps, and it all happened in a week twice, and then it went away.
Yeah, for everything like snowmobile trails, ski hills. It's all. A lot of people have been hammered through this.
All those
have you
restaurants.
Been golfing yet up in the tundra?
No.
No.
No, but and think about it, Fred and Brent. It's not just the ski hills; it's all those restaurants, it's all those other businesses surrounding it, the hotels.
Right.
On the one hand, because we were just talking about it, in Toronto, and I've lived in the city for half my life. There's always some courses, Brett, that will open later in March, but I don't recall a year when some of those GTA courses are starting to open now. It's very, very strange.
Well, I mean, I looked at the long range. It's going to start getting cold again, so we're going to get bit back a little, but it's like 16 degrees or something tomorrow.
Wow,
it's insane.
Well, let's talk about what your expertise is. You're not the weatherman. We have a guy for that. But let's talk a little bit about renewals. I know that was something that, when Fred and I, we talk about the chamber plan and how many people from the Humble and Fred world have signed up for it, and there's always interest. But maybe you can explain why renewals are so important and how the chamber plan distinguishes itself when it comes to renewing policy.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we're going through a little bit of a higher renewal than maybe the last 10 to 15 years, and it's just amazing to have people shocked to hear 7%, and which is basically our core inflation. But our worst year in 15 years is still less than the industry average this year, which is 11. So it's not so bad. The general reason for inflation is, as you know, dentists, dental fee guide goes up every year. And 2 years ago went up over 8%. So that spike has sort of caught up to us with claims and so on and so forth. So, physio, chiro, massage, all those practitioners up their rates annually. Drug costs are not going down. So there was a bit of a pressure, even though we're nonprofit, we're going up 7% to sort of maintain the pool. But what's a lot different is how these insurers calculate the renewal. So the chamber is a nonprofit. Essentially, the renewals, if you're a 1 to 9 and you chose to be fully pooled, you're just going to see that inflationary number each year. And for the last 10 years in Ontario, that's been on average less than 4%. And it's very calm. Your claims don't go into the factors. So, and those that chose to be partially pooled, which is typically 3 to larger firms, say up to 100 lives, or 100 employees in the real world. Those firms basically go into these formulas that the insurers will use. So they'll collect things like reserves. They call them IBNR, which is incurred but not reported. They'll sometimes charge a large amount pooling charge if you have unlimited drugs, for example, and that could be up to 10%. The reserves could be up to 8%. And then they do something called TLRs, target loss ratio. So the target loss ratio is basically how much you can claim as a percentage of the premium that you pay. And where this varies quite a bit is well, first of all, the Chamber doesn't collect reserves or large amount pooling charges. We're competitive on the target loss ratio, but we also use something called partial pooling. So if your firm happened to claim higher than expected loss ratio, so higher than the target, as they would call it, the Chamber basically doesn't hit your firm for the full amount. Same thing happens if you have a surplus. We save some of the surplus. That's how the pool works. But essentially, it allows firms to have stable renewals on a long-term basis. I had to laugh. We've had a few firms, get substantially lower quotes this year, and it happens all the time. Carriers will provide a low quote, but the clients hadn't even got their claims experience yet, so they went to the market without even showing their claims experience, which is, if the advisors would do that, it's a little bit unethical because you're supposed to provide it to the insurer. And the insurers kind of look the other way because it's like, okay, we'll take this business. But, it's not going to be to their benefit. They might save money for a year, then their plan's going to blow up. And if they were taking advantage of the partial pooling, so that shock absorber was helping them now, if they come back, we're going to look at what their actual claims are. So they're going to end up paying more. So over the 2 years, yes, they'd save in the first year. They're going to pay a lot more in the second year. They're actually not going to save any money, and they're going to go through that hassle of re-enrolling their employees each year and all that entails and the problems that go with those sort of things. So
another key thing with the Chamber plan is, holding the line on renewals and percentage-wise and cost of living, whatever that is, inflation. The product doesn't suffer.
Right.
In fact, you're always offering innovative new ideas and product.
Yeah, and a big part of being, the one thing we rarely ever talk about is the fact that it's actually an affinity program for members of local chambers and boards of trade. Mm-hmm. So it's really important for these business organizations to support small business and mid-sized business enterprises because there's not enough resources in the marketplace. So we have a step care mental health program. Mm-hmm. There's a business assistance program and all kinds of additional things that are included with the plan at no additional charge. And they probably wouldn't be there at no charge if this wasn't an affinity program for local chambers and boards.
Well, and something you said just a second ago about other firms offering lower renewals. And we've had this conversation for sure over the years, you and I and Fred, about how, it might seem shiny and new in year one. And then in year two, it goes up. And over the course of those 2 years, it turns out not to save you money. And you have to go through the hassle of doing it again. But the bottom line from what it seems, what we're hearing you say is, in an industry where renewals are going to be higher this year, our renewals aren't going to be as high as the industry. And, the stability continues, as Fred said, offering innovative packages for people.
Yeah, we've been spoiled. I mean, we've had, over the last 5 years, particularly through COVID, the plan returned refunded premiums on health and dental to help small businesses. They had renewals through the pandemic of under 4%. In Ontario, we were 2 and 3%. And you sort of start to expect that it's always going to be that. But the costs in the claims world, the costs have gone up, and some people who have larger loss ratios, so they've lost more, they've claimed more towards their percentage of premium, have seen more significant increases than, say, the core inflation. Because the partial pooling is protecting them, they're still going to have to pay the piper if they had claimed like 50% more than they paid in premium. They're going to pay some of that deficit. So Now, had they been in the marketplace, that renewal might be 30 or 40% more. And, let's face it, the economy is a little tough. So some businesses are saying, I'm going to take the 1 year savings and I'll deal with it in a year. So, we've seen a bit of that too. And it's just kind of the nature of the industry. But, you got to be careful what's out there. There's a lot of false promises. There's some people out there. There's an advisor in Streetsville that claims to be fully pooled, and basically he has a block of business. And if you claim too much, he moves you out of his block. But it's not really a pool. It's just
right.
And
it's not really a pool. It's a waiting pool.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other larger providers that say the same sort of thing, but they only pool the life and disability benefit, which everybody pools.
Right.
They don't pool the health and dental, or if they pool it until your claims are bad, and then they say, okay, we're taking you out of the pool.
You get out of the pool,
and then you get a 35% increase. It's not much of a pool if they could take you out of it.
So it's buyer beware too in those situations, obviously.
Well, listen, BT, it's funny. I saw your email this morning. You said you wanted to talk about renewals and how important they are, and there's so much to explore. The bottom line is the Chamber plan continues to be the best type of insurance for small businesses like ours, from 1 to 100. Go check it out at chamber.ca. Brett, good seeing you, my friend. You look well.
Good to see you guys. We'll chat again soon, and
and we'll be on the golf course before you know it.
Oh, I can't wait. I've been itching to play, but I haven't been able to get south, and yeah.
Well, we'll figure it out. Thanks, Brett. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
Okay, buddy. Take it easy.
Bye.
Dan Duran has just come back. Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I know you. I don't take it personally. Oh, we're gonna have that's gonna be the entire way to Cancun, my friend. I know you. I don't take it personally. Dan Duran. Dan Duran is the epitome of do as I do, don't do as I, or do as I say, don't do as I do. Oh yeah. Oh yes. I've seen it all. Dan Duran is back. So listen, the second day that Dan was here. So Dan got here on a Tuesday afternoon. We had a pretty seamless pickup there at one of the busiest airports. One of the busiest airports for tourism in the world, apparently, Cancun. It's huge. Mm-hmm. Had a nice dinner the first night. We did some grocery shopping. Oh, hang on a second. Dan Duran's entered the waiting room. I just, for some reason, I saw you there, and I thought you
wasn't there.
You were, but I could hear you. I just couldn't. The people couldn't see Dan. And nice dinner. Hang on, you got to turn off your thing. So we get up on Wednesday morning, and we were going. That was the day of the caves, so we were just going to do like a bike ride. We did a lot of bike riding. Did you like that?
Yeah, I do. I should probably do more of it. I'm going to make that a part of my summer life, I think, this year.
Yeah, we go on like a 40-minute bike ride, like just and you know what? We would give her. We did. We gave her, man.
We gave her.
We were giving her, Freddie. And by the way, we got to do that with Fred. Should we do that tomorrow? Should we save that the guy we met that we can't remember the phrase? Should we save that till tomorrow?
Let's save that till tomorrow. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, Dan, you have no shortage of bikes behind your trailer.
No, they're gone now.
They are?
Yeah. There's a guy up that works at the park there who takes old bikes and reconditions them and gives them to children in need. So I gave 3 of the 4 bikes that I had there to him. So I've got one bike. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You only can ride one at a time.
They were always for kids or whatever to take them and use them. They were a shared experience.
I was going to say it wasn't a little sign that said Dan Duran bike rental. Pay what you can.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
You know, it's like or the honor system. So, I don't want to belabor this because here's the thing. Unbeknownst to Dan, Fred sent me a note earlier in the week and said something to the effect of, any cock sightings. Something of that nature. It's immature.
Dan's face.
No, it is actually. This was Wednesday. He said, "Has Dan had a showing yet?" As of Wednesday, I said, no showing, although I have seen his boobs. And at some point, so we have 2 bathrooms here, 2 big bedrooms. Dan has his own bathroom, and then, goes over and does this thing. And I can't remember what we were doing, but either I was handing you a towel or something was going on. And we should just preface it by saying everyone knows that Dan Duran does not wear underpanties. Dan Duran is commando pretty much all the time. Is that not true?
Well, a lot of the time, yeah.
A very good amount of the time.
Yeah.
And and the door happened to open, and there it was, just hanging out. And I quickly looked away. How best to describe it is what you're probably wondering. It's like if an anaconda had a turtle head. It's almost like, it seems like of this time, but also prehistoric. It's all I can say. It was a lot to take in, and then I quickly, went about my business and tried to pretend I'd never seen it. That's all I have to say.
And obviously, it was flaccid.
Oh yes.
What would you estimate the flaccid length?
Oh
to
boy,
be?
Guys.
What?
This is not necessary.
That's a legitimate question.
Not really.
Dad.
Me.
I would say a medium-sized zucchini.
Really?
Oh yeah. Here's let's listen. I don't want to embarrass Dan. Dan's had a great time here. I hope. I've done my best, Dan. I've done my best.
Oh, that is true. You have.
So,
So, hey, we didn't even talk about
Don't wreck it, is what you're saying.
Well, and the thing is, I never mentioned it to Dan because I thought I wouldn't mention it till the show. Why talk about it in private? It's way more fun doing it this way. But it was
waste gold.
Yeah, it was everything people have. It's everything you would expect. It's just there. It's just there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not bullshit. It's not fantasy or bullshit. It exists.
No, it exists. And
it lives.
It's like when we were swimming with the turtles yesterday. I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Prehistoric.
We didn't talk about me forgetting my bank card in the machine. Which is basically, that's the story. I got a bunch of cash. Before we went to the Turtles. We got to the Turtles. I realized I left my bank card in the machine. But you know what? It's so easy these days to turn your bank card off. I just went online to my bank, and then looked it up. And then within 30 seconds of me realizing that I had forgotten it, I basically canceled it. It was not a big deal.
Yeah, all that's great, but what's that got to do with your
I was going to say, what did you leave?
See how quickly he
I know. Hang on. Where's the sound? The Dan Duran diversion sound. Diversion alert. Yeah, I'm like, okay, bank card. What's the segue? Oh, you put your dick in the bank card and in the bank machine.
So you shut it off, but now you're without a bank card.
Yeah, but I usually use my credit card over the bank card, and I don't think I'll be using it before I get back to Canada anyway. So,
today. Yeah. So today, basically, after the show's over, we're going to do another bike ride. We're going to have some lunch, and then we have free time scheduled.
Free time on the
free
schedule.
time, and then we'll be taking Dan Duran to the airport, and I will be sad because it's been a wonderful time, despite that shock. Listen, I've known Dan since we were little boys. I was 18, Dan was 19. So, and I've been his roommate. We lived together for a couple of years. I've traveled the world with Dan Duran. This is not my first Dan Duran rodeo.
There's nothing new here.
But it's been a while. The thing is, I haven't seen it.
Move along.
I hadn't seen it since it was a young boy, and now it's like, is that from olden days?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
has it aged well though?
Again, it was such a quick look. But it's like you know what it was. You know what it's like. It's like it's like the rings of an old tree. It's got the circles of time. All right, Dan, are you ready? Of course you are, Dan. No one's more ready for us to move on than this fellow.
Now, here's to a fella named Dan Duran, a hell of a guy with a hella big wang, the quintessential anchor man. His voice is nice and low. Dan Duran, the anchorman comes. As for credentials, he has none. Can't tell a headline from his bum, but his voice is nice and low. Dan Duran, the anchorman's here. He's prone to falling off his chair, but he's got a big wang, so he don't care, and his voice is nice and low.
My voice is nice and low.
And now live from right across from me. That's weird. There he is, movie and television anchorman, former weatherman, and all-around wonderful hombre. It is Dan Duran's News.
Well,
Sorry about that. Yes,
yeah.
there you go.
We good now? Okay, so in this this time of daylight saving time changes, everything is spring is kind of in the air. Let's talk about Venus flytrap poachers. You know that plant that eats people in the Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
It's spring in North Carolina where the fly traps are native and they flower, easier to spot, and the poachers are out. And there is a commission called the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. They have officers out there and have obtained arrest warrants for 2 people accused of stealing nearly 600 of the very rare plant.
What do they do with them?
I don't know. What would you do with a Venus flytrap? You know, like especially if you got 600 of them, you gotta
Feed them.
you gotta
Feed me.
Would they be worth something on the black market?
Well, if you actually go to a store to buy a Venus flytrap, it's about $10 to $15. It's not rare to buy. It's cultivated. These are not wild plants. They've been, in a greenhouse and brought up in a greenhouse. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I suppose, if you got I don't know what 600 plants wouldn't net you a whole lot.
600 times 10. It's like $6,000.
Yeah. But there's a lot of work, and risk and
Well,
I don't know. But were you ever fascinated as a kid about the Venus flytrap?
well, I'm from Saskatchewan, Dan. We didn't have that. I never heard of it until I went and saw that movie,
Seriously?
Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, I don't know. I read about them. I always thought they were very cool.
When I was a kid, I was fascinated by quicksand. I thought that was going to be a bigger issue.
It doesn't, and quicksand doesn't work like we always thought it did. It doesn't really.
Well, in the cartoons, as soon as you stepped in it, pretty soon you were over your head.
Yeah, but that doesn't even happen.
No.
The praying mantis always fascinated me as a child.
Oh, yeah?
Just looking at them, and then sometimes getting a magnifying glass and looking at all their features and how weird they looked. And,
Did you ever take a magnifying glass and burn an ant or a bug?
oh, well, yeah. The odd praying mantis head.
Oh, yeah.
actually.
Did you ever ever kill a neighborhood cat? Did you?
But the praying mantis. Did you know the praying mantis?
Did you ever drown a gopher?
The praying mantis. A praying mantis can kill like a small rodent, like a baby mouse or something.
Did you try?
Did you know that?
Did you try that out?
No.
Oh.
I'm sorry, you asked me, did I know that? No, I did not.
Yeah, did you know that?
No.
Like, it's amazing. They're one of those little creatures that far beyond its weight and, what you would perceive as abilities, it can accomplish certain things.
That's, you know what?
So
That is fascinating. Do you have any more?
mantis.
Do you have any? Dan, do you have anything else about the Venus flytraps, or do you want to add something to this discussion of the praying manti?
I have nothing to add on the praying manti.
All right.
All I can tell you is that they last 20 years, the Venus flytraps.
Okay.
And you can say you have
Really?
one.
Wow.
What?
So don't get one now. It'll outlive you. What?
That's right.
Yeah, who will care for my Venus flytrap plant? I'll will it to my son. That's what I'll do.
Aw.
Since we've been down here, there's a little dog next door. It's a miniature poodle, sweet little thing named Paco. And he comes in every day and visits us, and I pick him up and I snuggle him and everything. And Delise and I were saying, if we get a dog, we'll get one just like that. And I totally agree. But again, doing the math, it's like these things can live to 14 and 15. I'm not sure that I got that in me. You know what I mean? Seriously. Something to think about. A thing that you think about now you never would have thought of before, right?
No,
Dog
exactly.
outliving you.
But an animal like that may encourage you to live longer. You may not give
maybe.
up quite so quickly. Just saying.
Well, listen, this has been a wonderful, adventure, and having Dan here. It's the first time, other than the Christmas show at Kelsey's, I can't remember the last time we've done a show in the same room. Certainly you and I, but Yeah, this has been great. And it's different having you
Right across. Yeah.
right across. I can see you. You're right there.
The shows I did at your place where I was always upstairs in the
Right.
upstairs zone, right?
Yes.
Just because it was better for the video experience.
Tomorrow we'll welcome back our good friend Bill Brio, making his monthly appearance. It's that time again, talking about entertainment and television and the world of streaming product. And then Wednesday, we make sense of all things political. And we'll ask Tony Clement all the questions we have about decorum and lying in politics. You know, it used to be a president would make fun of his opponent's stutter, and people would be horrified by that. But not this fucker.
And he makes as many or more mistakes than Biden. That's another thing that kills
my
me.
God.
One thing I might ask Tony about, and I had written it down here. You know, I'm in the Dominican Republic attached to Haiti, and there's some major unrest going on in Haiti right now. And then I'm just reading last night that a couple of prisons, you know, the gangs went in and opened the prisons, and like 4,000 or 5,000 hardened criminals now running around the countryside in Haiti. And we're only talking a couple of 100 miles or 250 miles, and it's like part of me's thinking, what if these people come into the Dominican and start robbing people or attacking people?
I thought
I'm
you were
serious.
being like, no, I know, but I'm. And what if they come over and all of a sudden now there's more of a lineup at the knuckle place?
I have to wait longer.
We have to wait longer for your pork knuckle.
But you know, I don't know. I got to ask. You know, maybe Tony can answer that. It would. You know, he's tuned into all that stuff, and I know. The U.S. is sending in some military and stuff. You know, it's happening not like from here to the trailer away or something. That distance.
That's always fascinating that border's been there. I mean, there's been unrest in Haiti for years and years, and it doesn't seem like it leaks over that border very much. I was wondering, though, with all the gang, if people don't know, the gangs have started to take over Haiti. Just there's been a crazy organized gang warfare going on there. But I wonder, I mean, it's a pretty destitute country anyway. Wondering, is there any countries in the world that are actually run by gangs? Because that's pretty close to where Haiti is, I think, right now.
You know what, Dan? Off the top of my head, I have no answer for that.
The Dominican Republic is, you know, a poor country. Everybody's got a smile on their face here, and from what you can tell, everybody's got a full belly, and they seem to be happy. But, you know, a poor country. But I was reading they're 9 times, the average Dominican is 9 times richer or more well-off than the average Haitian.
Right.
And then Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And it's just, So at some point, these people have got to go crazy and want what the rest of the world has. So I just hope this isn't bad timing while I'm here.
Well, listen, my friend, if it starts to get, if shit gets real, you get out of there. Okay.
What if they attack? What if they shut down the airport?
Well, you know what? You're going to have to learn to speak Haitian. Listen, before we say goodbye for another Humble and Fred Day, listen to this important message.
Feeling stuck on the sidelines?
Hey, watch where you're walking, man.
When life gives you too much to tackle?
Yeah, I'm going to need that draft tomorrow.
You know it's time to play. It's easy to find your next favorite game at Bodog.net. Get the latest sports odds and free tips to help you go all the way this football season. Visit Bodog.net today. #Make a play.
This episode of Humble and Fred was brought to you by The Retirement Sherpa, The Chambers Plan, Boron One, Bodog, and Lender's Choice Mortgages. For contests and comments, we read all of our emails, humbleandfred at humbleandfredradio.com, humbleandfred at humbleandfredradio.com. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think. And subscribe to the podcast. Maybe share an episode, and rating the podcast helps us out as well. For Humble and Fred, I'm Dan Duran. And remember, I'll be back in Canada tomorrow to give that winter perspective you crave and to help you enjoy every goddamn day.
Saw the lights turn low, the jigsaw jazz and the get fresh flow, pulling out jobs and jamboree handouts, 2 turntables and a microphone, bottles and cans, or just clap your hands, or just clap your hands. Where's that?